ClearOne Advantage is one of the largest debt relief companies in the United States, but let's consider the over 8,000 reviews about this company. Also, how are these reviews compared to other debt relief providers? And how much does ClearOne Advantage actually cost? We're gonna cover all that and more in this video, so let's get started. Welcome to Ascend Finance's YouTube channel, where we cover debt companies such as ClearOne Advantage and help you understand the costs, the pros and cons, etc., to help you be most informed to get out of debt cheaper, easier, and faster. My name is Ben, and I was the previous CEO of a debt settlement firm. So I've settled a lot of debt in my life, and so I have a pretty good understanding of who ClearOne Advantage is and what it does. So here's what we're gonna cover in this video, and it's a bit long, and I apologize in advance, but we did include chapters in the description below so that you can kind of help navigate to what's most interesting to you. So let's talk about what we're gonna cover in this video. First, we're gonna talk about what is ClearOne Advantage. And second, we're gonna try to answer the question, is ClearOne Advantage a legitimate company? Next, how much does ClearOne Advantage cost? Next, how does ClearOne Advantage work? What are the ClearOne Advantage reviews? Some of the pros and cons of using ClearOne Advantage, and should you sign up for ClearOne Advantage? So let's just get right in, let's dive right in. So what is ClearOne Advantage? So ClearOne Advantage is one of the largest debt settlement companies in the United States. And what does that mean exactly? So debt settlement is when someone faces financial hardship, a debt settlement company or you would try to negotiate the debt down with the creditors. So let's say you have $10,000 in unsecured debt. The debt settlement company would try to negotiate that down to potentially $5,000 and then charge the fee that would basically be the fee of doing their services. So they would do the negotiation, they do the payment processing, etc. So that's a brief history of what ClearOne Advantage does and what is it exactly they do. Next, you probably want to know, is ClearOne Advantage a legitimate company? And yes, ClearOne Advantage is a legitimate company. It's been around for a long time. It's got some accreditation. It's got over 8,000 reviews. So it is a legitimate company, but what does it cost? How much does ClearOne Advantage cost? What are the reviews of ClearOne Advantage? Let's cover those ones next, because I think that's super important. So how much does ClearOne Advantage cost? So ClearOne Advantage charges a fee based on the enrolled debt amount. So let's say you enroll $10,000 of debt. They would charge a fee based on the enrolled debt amount. And usually that fee ranges from 15 to 25%. But what we see is it may be near that 20 to 25%. So in the $10,000 example, you may settle it for a $10,000 debt for $5,000 and then pay them $2,000 and $2,500. And that equates to a monthly payment plan. And the challenge is, let's say it's 25%. That's a pretty high fee, right? You're paying $2,500 off of a $10,000 debt. If you had a $100,000 debt, you're paying $25,000 in fees. So fees are super important. So what we actually did was we built a debt settlement cost calculator that I include in the description below, and it will help you estimate the cost of debt settlement, but also compare it to other options. So it will compare it to debt management, debt payoff planning, bankruptcy, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. And maybe you don't want to do Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but at least the calculator will help you understand the cost of those options. And best of all, it's 100% free. It is personalized to your data, and it doesn't even require email address. We really wanted to build something that anyone could use and not have to feel like they have, we're trying to sell you something. It's something that we wanted to build that would be useful to you so you can make the most informed decision about your debt. Because a lot of times you may be feeling stressed, you may be feeling like really down in the gutter about what am I going to do? It's a really stressful time. And so building a resource that would be that take away that stress, that kind of gives you a little bit more clarity about your options, was something that was really important to us early on in Ascend's days. And one of the reasons why I'm no longer a debt settlement CEO, because we realized that helping people understand their options were way more rewarding. So the next thing I want to talk about is just a little bit of how ClearOne Advantage works. So let's say you sign up for ClearOne Advantage's program. What would probably happen is they give you a monthly draft amount, and that would include their fees and all these other estimates. And so what would happen is you would stop paying your creditors, and then you put those funds to a monthly escrow account. It could be, let's say you're paying your creditors $800, now you're paying, into this escrow account $600. You do that, and the funds would accrue. And once they get to a position where they're able to make a settlement on your accounts, they would probably ask you whether you like that settlement, and then you say yes or no, and then they use the funds from that escrow bank account to settle the debt. And it's a lot of different companies do this. Now, ClearOne Advantage, I would say, it seems like some of the higher fees. That's why we kind of create that calculator to kind of help you estimate the fees, but it does do generally what it says it does. Now, let's talk about, what about the creditors? Are they going to call you? Are they going to sue you? Or those kind of things? Yes, the creditors will most likely call you, and ClearOne Advantage may send a power of attorney that will help alleviate those calls. calls, and the creditors can sue for unpaid debt, but it really depends on what the creditor is. And we basically put together kind of a lawsuit likelihood calculator that I can also provide to you that will help you understand if I do enroll in debt settlement, what's the chances of me being sued? And it's just an estimate, but it should be helpful for you. So next we're going to cover the ClearOne Advantage reviews. So let's talk about the reviews. So when I'm looking at debt settlement company reviews, I like to look at multiple platforms to get a better understanding. There's some platforms that I like, such as Google and Yelp, that I feel maybe a little bit less biased than, if you type in top 10 debt settlement companies and you get an ad that shows top 10 debt settlement companies, right? That's an ad. They're going to need to get some revenue from that. So they may be getting referral revenue from this. So let's go through like Google, Yelp, that kind of thing. Let's talk about ClearOne Advantage reviews. So in the making of this video, on BBB, ClearOne Advantage had a 3.8 out of 5 based on 496 reviews. It has an A+ rating, but it has gotten 210 complaints in the last 3 years. And 3.8, I would say I've seen better. Now on Google, it has a 3.9 based on 941 reviews. Again, the companies I think that we've worked with have 4.7 or above or in that range. So it's not as high as I'd like to see generally. So the Yelp reviews, it has a 1.5 based on 42 reviews. Now Yelp may tend to be a little bit more negative, but it's really important to see and read some of those reviews because that's a pretty low score. And finally on Trustpilot, now this is where they have the most reviews. At the time of this video, they had 7,129 and they do have a 4.9. Which is interesting, right? You got to compare like, wow, I got a lot of different reviews to say a lot of different things. And what I like to do is, what we did is we wanted to find a company that has like good reviews on all the sites because, maybe it has a 4.9 here, but what about like a 1.5 here, right? So it's good to kind of compare those options, looking at debt settlement in particular. Next, I want to kind of go through the pros and cons of doing debt settlement with ClearOne or with anyone. So I would say the pros is that you could save money because if they're selling $10,000 of debt for $5,000, and they charge fees, you could still save money. Next, it can get you on a payment plan. So, if you're on credit cards forever, that you could pay for 15 years and still be paying probably the same credit card. It gets you on a payment plan. So that is nice. It gives you accountability because you're generally closing out those accounts, such as your credit cards or personal loans or any of those things. And I would say those are probably some of the main pros, like, saving money can be helpful. Now let's talk about the cons. The cons, I would say this isn't an extensive list, but I want to give you some of the bigger cons. One is lawsuit likelihood. So what if you get sued for some unpaid debt that is in a ClearOne Advantage program? Now, generally a debt settlement company can settle those accounts that have been sued on, but it might be for a higher amount. And all creditors are different. So some may sue, some may not sue. So it's just good to know, that may be a con. The second is there might be tax liability on forgiven debt. So not always the case. You might be tax insolvent, so you may not be responsible for that debt, but it's just important to kind of understand that it could be a con. The next is creditor calls. Like usually the debt settlement company will take those calls, but if they don't, do the power of attorney right away, then, you may be getting collection calls right away. I would say credit score impact is definitely one of them. So, you'll probably see a credit score impact drop. And then as you settle the accounts, you might see that kind of climb back up. And I think those are probably some of the bigger cons that I would consider as in-debt settlement specifically. So just something to be aware of. Finally, I wanted to kind of go through this question, like, should you sign up for ClearOne Advantage? That ultimately is your decision and you understand your finances best. I would definitely take consideration of the reviews, both the positive and the negative, when making the most informed. I'd also encourage you to look at your other options, debt management or bankruptcy, or, consider these different things, debt payoff planning, right? All of these different options have pros and cons. And so, yeah, you could take our debt cost options calculator below and compare those. Compare the cost of Chapter 7 versus debt settlement versus, the pros and cons of all those options. And hopefully that'll help you kind of understand your decisions. So I hope this video is helpful. I really enjoyed making it, and I hope you have a great day. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see other content like this, but if not, I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.